it's only retrospectively that you can possibly think that this might have led to this. But the exact decision of I want to be an actor and why that came about or when exactly that came about is not something which is clear to me even now. There was no precedence of that in my family and no precedence of that in my parents' social circle either.
They say the most powerful performances aren't always the loudest, but the ones you feel long after the screen fades to black is a powerful performance. And today's guest is someone who's mastered that quiet intensity. From compelling performances across film and series to becoming a face of deeply nuanced storytelling, her journey is anything but conventional. Also, she's progressed from accidental beginnings to conscious purpose while keeping the spirit of be all you can alive throughout. I'm Rasika. I'm really excited to be hosting this special series of the podcast, Be All You Can. She's going to tell us more about her journey today. Rasika, how wonderful to see you. How are you?
Always lovely to see you, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
All right, let's go straight back to what I would say is a very, very interesting past. They call it jam pot in lots of parts of this world. But Jamshedpur is just such a wonderful place to grow up. I mean, tell me about those days. I mean, there are so many actors now coming out of there saying, wow, this is the place where Imtiaz Ali and Rasika Dugal have come and made fortune for themselves. And you indeed are an inspiration to the next generation. So those heady days of starting off in Jamshedpur, what are they like?
Well, I always remember my Jamshedpur childhood as a very secure one, especially because you knew everybody around you. The friends you had in school were the same friends you met in when you came home, and the same friends you met at the club, and your parents were friends with each other. So it was always it's a close knit community, and anywhere you go, you feel like people around you. So there's never unknown territory. Also, the kind of place that allows you to have an idyllic afternoon. So most of my afternoons, I remember doing nothing actually, But yeah, so that's how I remember it as really the time where I had time off, and I don't remember having time off ever since I left Jamshedpur.
One of the things about the wonder years when we're growing up, our age of adolescence, as it were, is our sense of observation and empathy is really, without us even knowing, is finely tuned. And because Jamshedpur is the kind of place it is, would you say that your sense of observation, empathy, storytelling, without you even knowing it, kind of got enhanced or was finely tuned because you grew up in a place like that?
I think the only thing that I can sort of place it to is that because it was my parents were very social, so as a child, while there was no conscious sort of cultural upbringing, because my parents were not tuned to that. It was not that I was surrounded by books all the time or I was told to watch certain kinds of movies. It was basically the run of the mill stuff that people my age in a small town. My viewing on the big screen was limited to things that the club could get, and very often that used to be films that would come much later. I remember there used to be screenings on Tuesdays and Fridays. It was actually very beautiful because it was almost a cinema paradiso experience because this was an open air theatre. So that's where I usually picked up my cinema from, but there was no sort of conscious design by my parents to sort of educate me in a particular way as far as cinema or arts was concerned. So I pretty much picked up things along the way. And I think my real sort of realization of wanting to be a performer came much, much later. I was always socially very conscious, but there's a deep consciousness of how you are and what people around you are doing. And I didn't sort of enjoy that sort of thing at all while growing up. But I have to say that I think it did help me as an actor because, when you walk into the room, you're already tuned into sort of figuring what everybody else wants, needs, is doing, what they expect of you, etc., etc. So you're kind of equipped to analyze that information almost immediately.
Was there really a precedent in your family for doing what you're doing today? I mean, you're one of the most respected actors in the country, but the transformative decision of joining acting or wanting to be an actor, can you explain it?
No, and that's the beauty of it.
Most
And that
transformative
is,
decisions in life can't be explained, Rasika. That's the way
yeah.
it is, yeah.
And that is the beauty of it, because it's only retrospectively that you can possibly think that this might have led to this. But the exact decision of I want to be an actor and why that came about or when exactly that came about is not something which is clear to me even now. There was no precedence of that in my family and no precedence of that in my parents' social circle either.
Okay, so then you join FTII, and one of your mentors, rightfully so, is the great Nasiruddin Shah. And you have described him as that rare combination of a great actor who's also a very good teacher. My question to you is the lessons that you learned from him that go beyond acting even today, something that you've picked up that has just become one of your bylines, a few of your bylines in life.
I think everything that I know about performance today is because of what I learned at the Film Institute and because of the very strong foundation that I had in the classes with Nasir Saab. Because he's one of those teachers who equips you with the tools to understand everything else that's going to come at you later or come to you later, you know. And that kind of foundation is absolutely unmatchable. And sometimes I really think back and I wonder what I would have done had I not known this. But there are a few very basic things that he had taught us. Some of them are harder to explain if you're not a performer. But one golden rule, which I will never forget, and I have never broken that rule, is you never tell your co-actor what to do, and you have to extend that to the point that you, supposing, giving you an example, you and I have sat and rehearsed a scene 100 times. I have given line A, you've given line B, I've given line C, you've given line D. For some reason, when we are on take, you forget or you choose to or you intentionally skip line B. You choose to not say it. I will not stop and say, hey, you've forgotten your line. No, I will accept your silence and respond to that. Or I will accept whatever you choose to put line D in place of line B. I will accept that and I will play to that. And that's something that, seems very simple. You'll be amazed at how difficult it is to implement. And you'll be amazed at how many people don't do it.
So, Rasika is working as a research assistant on a gender and public space project. And then you spot a newspaper advertisement saying FTII was restarting their acting course. And that's when you join or you apply, right? Is that
Right.
a true life moment? Okay, now here's my question.
Absolutely correct.
Were you a curious child? Were you a curious teen? Because I'm thinking if you noticed, paused, and said, why not? Maybe curiosity was very central to why you ultimately ended up being where you are.
I think, yes, as curious as people are, I think it's not difficult. I think curiosity, as far as I understand it, is pretty innate. You just have to sort of protect yourself from it being destroyed, you know. And as you become older, I guess you just have to find a way to nurture it and preserve it, you know. So yes, I was curious, and I was also brave in the sense that I naturally did not like authority, and I didn't feel like I had to adhere to it. But it was, I think, a good combination of curiosity and a healthy dislike of authority.
So I take it you said, why not? You gave in to curiosity and you join. You don't really take it seriously as a career choice, but then all around you, and I know people who get into FTII, I mean, most of them have fierce ambitions of either stardom or pursuing acting. Was there a moment that whim of let's try this, became a calling?
I don't think I can identify a particular moment, but I can say that about 6 months into this course, I knew this is what I wanted to do
Mm.
for as long as I can help it. You know, I had done other things before, therefore, I was able to identify this as this feels different. So I had done um, two fairly different things, and none of those kind of fit quite as right as this felt because this really felt like I had met something which combined my need to share as well as my shyness to not share it. I felt like the camera captured both of that very beautifully. So I really felt sort of connected to this in a way that I hadn't felt with anything else.
Okay, I'm going to come to the vagina monologues. I find it remarkable, extraordinary, fascinating that for 9 years you stayed with one production. It's a sustained relationship with a single piece of work. What did that teach you? I mean, there's depth, there's breadth, there's everything. 9 years with one piece of work. But I want to know learnings from that.
Well, so many because when you've been with a piece of work for a while, it's like, you go through different stages with it, right? There's a complete thrill and excitement to do it at first, which then transforms into a kind of boredom for a while. And then if you ply through that boredom, then you find something new to do in it. For example, if there was show number 60 of the Vagina Monologues, by now I should have known it backwards and I should be getting all the applause that I want exactly at the correct places. And as a performer, it's very easy to sort of crave that every single time. But you reach a point where you realize that I can only overcome my boredom or something if I reinvent myself within that. And in order to reinvent myself within that, I have to let go of the applause that comes, maybe for a bit, till I find the other spots where it could be applause worthy, which is more interesting to me, which is actually a great lesson for an actor's career. So that's what staying with something long enough teaches you as a performer.
Rasika, how important is community? And by community, I don't mean networking. I'm talking about a genuine creative community. I noticed that, there is the Vagina Monologues experience, and then there's also Dastan Goi, which is the revival of the traditional Urdu Dastan storytelling tradition. And so the importance of community, genuine creative community, to sustaining a purposeful life.
Well, extremely, extremely important, but also very difficult to find, and it's something that I've constantly struggled with because I've found meaningful creative collaborations on some projects, but a sustained creative community not for very long, especially because of the kind of lives we lead these days. And I'm always full of admiration for Rajat Kapoor and gang, for example, because they've made such incredible stuff over all these years. And recently that comes to mind because that film released recently.
Everybody loves Sora Bhanda.
Sora Bhanda. So I'm constantly impressed with the way Vinay, Rajat, Ranveer, Atul have worked with each other across mediums and for so many years, So I don't know what it feels to them personally. I'm also curious about that. But as it seems to me from the outside, this is a great place. This is a great group to have and work with each other.
I'm going to come to certain parts which have obviously left their mark on me and so many of your fans who've just loved you in these particular parts. Let's start with something that happened a while ago. Share. 2011, an experimental black and white indie film. There were people who've seen that performance and are astonished by the layered, mature performance that you've given. In fact, Nandita Das has described Rasika Dugal's personality as being, quote unquote, like water. You blend in without judgment or conditions. And what a wonderful line that is.
Yes.
Thanks,
Santa.
Yeah. Do you think acting at its highest is an act of empathy, of radical empathy, is my question to you. And that's why so many of your characters are so believable.
I think acting at its basic is an act of empathy, not at its highest. That's that's the first thing you need, and it can't be done without. So I don't see it being done in any other way.
What does ethical responsibility mean to you as an artist, and where does your craft end and your conscience begin?
I don't think there's an end and beginning. I think they are intertwined, and you are doing money with yourself if you're not paying attention to that. And it's easy to not pay attention to that, especially when your career progresses and the stakes are higher, because I don't think you can create anything special without that. But if it's really not aligning with if it has, for example, many sexist jokes, some might call that silly. It might have crossed silly threshold for me and might have entered the space of misogyny. So, yeah, I don't think you can separate those.
All right, Beena Tripathi in Mirzapur, the role that really made you a household name. And it's no secret, and you've been very forthcoming about this, saying that you've lived vicariously through Beena because she's so different from what you are. She's just wired very differently. My question, and I'd like to segue into it using that thought, what do we learn about ourselves by inhabiting people who are nothing like us? So what have you learned about yourself by inhabiting Beena Tripathi?
Oh, a lot. The process of saying yes to the role has taught me a lot about my own indoctrination into patriarchy. My own internalized patriarchy had come to the fore because, for example, when I went to read for this, and I was having conversations with the creator director Karan Anshuman for season one, and I'd read through the scenes, and the scenes are potentially very different from what I'd ever done before. And I came back home and spoke to your favorite person, Mukul Chadha, and I said, I'm a little nervous because I don't know what my father will think. And Mukul Chadha, in his infinite wisdom, said, why aren't you worried about what your mother will think? So it told me a little bit about myself taking on this role. That somewhere taking on a role like this was because of the physical nature of it, and that idea of me was somewhere tied to izzat,
Yeah.
and that izzat was somewhere tied to my father, and all of that was very revealing to me about myself.
When you're playing a psychologically intense role like the one in Out of Love, how do you protect your own mental and emotional space?
Well, to be honest, I don't try to protect it. The idea while you're doing the work is to try to not protect. The idea is to be affected by it in every way possible. And the preoccupation while you're filming for something is, am I there, rather than is it scarring me or affecting me or hurting me? I don't know if that's the healthiest way of looking at it, and everybody has their own thing. So the preoccupation is to be affected and be exhilarated or wounded or whatever. But today I would, after I finish a project, probably give myself the physical rest and mental rest that I need after I finished filming.
Okay, let's move to Delhi Crime. For those of you living under a rock, the first Indian series ever to win the International Emmy. There's a couple of questions on Neeti Singh, a fantastic character that you played. Now, I remember you telling me when we did the interview for Delhi Crime that you did face the personal weight of playing Neeti Singh in the show. It was disturbing being in it, but you wanted to be disturbed in a way. You wanted to remember, because you felt all of us should feel guilty about what happened, because we all did move on in some strange way and we shouldn't have. When storytelling becomes a form of social conscience, does the line between an actor and the activist disappear? And in cases like this, does the actor become the activist?
Well, I think that you as an actor, you're not an activist. It's, in my opinion, an activism is a kind of selflessness that I have still not experienced. You know, that's completely different, and it requires a completely different way of being, in my opinion, than what you're doing as an actor on a show. You know, empathy is not difficult at all, and the more I work, the more I realize that, uh, and the more I feel happy about that, because empathy is actually very easy.
All right, let's give credit where it's due. The change is happening slowly and it's really wonderful. Stellar roles are being written for women of all ages, particularly middle aged women. These lead parts are not resembling men. There is an attempt to explore femininity, to understand the inner life of a woman. So, those are wonderful things. But if there's still one thing you'd like to dismantle, a so called quote unquote invisible rule about how women are still being written or how women are still being cast in Indian cinema, what would it be?
Many but two things that come to mind today are that many women characters are written like they are the custodians of compassion. Many women writers, women parts are written as if motherhood is the most fulfilling thing that for a woman. Many stories which are dark also about a woman not having a child. I'm tired of reading those, you know. I'm like, there can be other reasons that you feel unfulfilled. So, um, that, and I think people don't associate a lightheartedness with women. I don't know why. So, women in comedy is very underwritten. Usually, you tend to get an opportunity to be the foil to the funny, but not the person carrying the jokes, you know. And I would love to see more of that and be in some of that.
Okay, this is my favorite question off the question list because it's just so me.
Hmm.
Now, you know, our generation, which is you, me, Mukul Chadda, all of us, for our generation, rest and recovery was known as a sign of laziness. And it's such a paradox to me that today, Godrej has come to me and asked me to host a podcast about living with purpose. The title is Be All You Can. And the key word being be. I think we're just so hardwired, our generation, saying if we're, just resting, looking at the ceiling fan, we're being lazy.
Hmm.
And I'm still struggling with it. I don't know if you've managed to overcome this and you're able to just be. And you have days where you just look outside the window, stare at the ceiling fan and just be.
Well, for actors, there are many days that you are just made to be. So it's not out of
The
choice.
hazards of the profession.
The hazards of the profession. So I've spent significant number of days staring at the ceiling fan when I started out as an actor and being totally uncomfortable with it, not as a choice. What you're asking is that have I been able to make it a choice? No, is the answer, but I struggle with it. I realize the importance of it, and especially because it's spoken about so much these days in
Yeah.
social media. And honestly,
You talked a few minutes ago again about being able to constantly improve as an actor. And that's a wonderful thing, that belief in perpetual growth. And at the heart of it, this podcast is about that. I mean, Be All You Can is about that. The idea that you should constantly evolve. Now, again, here's the question. Some people improve and evolve, and it comes from restlessness. Like you ask Shah Rukh Khan, he'll say, I'm restless, so I need to evolve. Whereas there are lots of people, like you ask the Sadgurus of this world, and they say, oh, I evolve and I improve because of joy. So my question to you is, where does the drive to constantly evolve come from? For you, is it joy or is it restlessness?
I don't think it's a choice. I don't think you can not evolve. If you want to continue to do what you're doing with a certain kind of integrity, you have to evolve. Hmm. So you have to find a way to evolve. And like I went to this reading recently of a conversation with Nandita and Siddharth Mukherjee, and he said, there will be times where you're stuck and you will feel stuck and you have to innovate your way out. There is no other way. Mm. And that just rang so true because there are many sort of situations in your life as an actor where you feel like okay, this is it. And there's nothing else happening creatively within you. And if you have to, even if you don't desire to have something better than where you are today, to stay where you are, you have to find a way to evolve. And there is great joy in it. When you work your way around it, the joy of it is unmatchable.
Now, is there something you sacrificed in the pursuit of your craft? And would you do it differently?
I think when I came from FTI to Bombay, I had a single-minded focus, and I mean, Mukul and I have this conversation many times where he constantly tells me that he left his banking job and came here and told himself that this was a sabbatical and that he had a plan B. If this didn't quite work out, he had other options and he would go back to his banking job. And when I came to Bombay, I did not have a plan B. I didn't want to even for a minute entertain that this would not work out. I didn't want to think that way at all. And maybe that was delusional, but it was a healthy dose of delusion, which I really believe that if you're an actor, you do need. And you need it throughout your career. So it's good to sort of keep that delusion going.
Okay, Be All You Can is about people discovering and living their fullest lives, their fullest selves. As you stand at this point in your life and career, what does being the fullest version of Rasika Dugal actually look like to you?
If I have to describe it in terms of a visual, I would really say that I think I'm at this point where I'm ready to jump off to see whether it makes me fly or makes me fall and then fly or just
Nice.
fall.
When you're not on set, what are the things that you find yourself completely immersed in? As in, what does your version of switching off look like?
Well, I'm very easily immersed in anything that I'm doing. I mean, watching films is, of course, one way to do it. I like to have marathon viewing days, and my perfect day is a Sunday where I've worked out and I've had the opportunity to watch two films back to back. That's my perfect day. I've recently consciously wanted to get back to a reading habit because I've felt very alone in the last few years without one. I read a couple of books back to back, and I'm totally in love with them and those writers, and I can't get over them. Or to be honest, the last one I read was Kiran Desai's The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny, and it is the most beautiful thing I've ever read. But let me tell you, I'll say that about a lot of things because I'm so obsessively connected to it when I'm reading it.
Creative journeys come with their share of uncertainty. In the early years, how did you deal with setbacks or moments of doubt? What kept you going?
A sense of community and a sense of humor. So we had a lot of people from FTI who were doing the same thing that I did. And my joke is that we used to go for so many meetings and auditions and we rejected constantly. But fortunately, when you came back home, you had five other people who had faced similar rejections. So you didn't feel alone.
All right, just 5 rapid fire questions before we say bye bye.
Hmm.
One role you wish you had played,
You mean existing, which has already been
existing or
performed?
past?
No, one role that I want to play is I want to
Yes.
play Amrita Preetham in a biopic. The roles that I want to play is everything that Kate Blanchett has ever done,
Nice.
especially Tar and Blue Jasmine. Yeah.
A character of yours you'd like to be friends with in real life?
I think Neeti Singh is an extension of me, so I'm already friends with her. Beena Tripathi would be somebody who would be fun to to have as a friend because you never know what she'll do.
If not acting, what would you be doing today?
I have no skill for it, but I would love to be a singer. I total admiration for singers.
One belief that has shaped your journey the most.
That you have to trust that you're building something which is beyond your vision.
One mantra you come back to during tough times.
किसी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता कभी जमीन कभी आसमान नहीं मिलता.
क्या बात
That
है?
is truly something that I keep repeating to myself every time I lose a project or don't get something done.
Rasika, you've helped us stay inspired. You've followed your purpose. You've dreamt and truly you are being all you can. And that really is the motto of our podcast. Thank you for being so patient and kind and answering my exhaustive list of questions. I hope you enjoyed answering them.
Absolutely.
But this has been wonderful. Thank you ever so much.
Thanks for listening to Be All You Can, a podcast by Godrej Enterprises Group, exploring the passion, purpose, and dreams of pioneers. Stay tuned for more stories that inspire action and impact.